I will introduce our final speaker for today, Tony. Tony Hughes, he brings a deep expertise to cybersecurity, auditing, and technology risk. Tony's over 25 years of experience across public, private, and academic sectors, and has contributed to several key government cybersecurity strategies. Tony's a senior IT auditor at the Northern Ireland Audit Office and is one of the founders of Run Audit, an AI-enabled software company. Tony's also deeply involved in professional community, steering committee for the Northern Ireland Cyber Cluster, a board member and a trainer with IAASA, and contributes to their globally to their emerging trends working group. I won't go through his full CV. It's there online. There's a lot there, but he lectures for chartered accountants on technology, risk, and data management. We will have time at the end for this, for Q&A, so please keep your questions coming in on Slido, but not to eat into any more of his time, could you please welcome Tony to the floor?
Thanks, Martin. We got a wee clicker. Can I give it here for you? There you go. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yeah, everybody hear me okay, yeah? My mother would tell you could hear me without a mic, so that's okay. Glad this panel was on before me because this will cut this down to about 2 minutes because it touched on just about everything. Yeah, a little bit about me. So I've got a public sector, a quasi-public sector, commercial sector background. I've been where these people have been up front. I've dealt with some of those issues. I've probably caused some of the issues as well, in fairness. So I've been through the cybersecurity, financial audit, financial accounting. So I started as an accountant, became an auditor. The one-eyed man was king in the Valley of the Blind, became an IT auditor, got me into cybersecurity. I worked with Big Four in cybersecurity, ran and sold a successful cybersecurity company, and have now reinvested in what we basically call an audit company. So a lot of companies are building software for compliance, and we just thought we'd go the other way and support the auditor in this. And I'm not here to sell anything or anything. This is not a salesy pitch. It's just to talk a little bit about the journey we've been on and the challenges we have had. So where do I see if I got to my first slide? There we go. So we call it a busy reader's guide to the use of artificial intelligence. If we could get the non-artificial intelligence to work, then the artificial intelligence could actually kick in here. This is going to be a long day, folks, but strap in. Are we okay up? Yeah, everything's good up there, yeah? It's just on the projector, okay. So, yeah, very quickly, so background like that. Artificial intelligence, what is it not? We've heard some of the use cases, and now we're just going to talk through, okay, what can we use it for? Should we use it? What's the risk management part of it? Because we're all risk managers, audit committees. I'm not even sure what you call a group of people. Is it of audit committee members and things? Is it a coven? Is it a group? I don't know what you call it, but we're all here. So let's get kicked off. I'm going to introduce you.
Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be here with you in Chartered Accountants House here in Dublin. My name is Laura, and along with Tony, we'll take you through some of the evolving issues in audit, specifically around the use of AI. Let's discuss the role of the human in this embedded future, where skills augment automation and self-improving systems assist the auditor, regulator, or compliance team, working in tandem for the best result. Okay, Tony, over to you.
Okay. Can't get a word in.
Thank you, Laura.
These agents.
It really is my pleasure to be here with you in Chartered Accountants House today. Thank you to the Irish Auditing and Accounting Supervisory Authority for the invite. As you can see, everyone can have a digital twin, but perhaps not everyone should. Let me introduce the overview of this session. At a high level, we will look at the origins of AI, the changing work environment, traditional versus powered approaches to auditing, how automation frees the human from repetitive tasks, understanding what exactly is a human in the loop, and ultimately saving the profession of IT audit. Anyway, I have been unable to master the Nordy accent, so I will hand you over to the real Tony.
Might get a word in now. It's amazing what you can do with 2 minutes audio and 10 photographs. That is all it took to create that, by the way. And Laura is a kind of a co-agent. So when you think about AI agents, think about Laura. They're not just scary black box type agents. They actually can have a face. They can have emotions. They can show all kinds of sentience, as we said. So it's interesting how they operate. So let's have a little look at the origins of AI and where did it all begin. If anybody had to guess where AI began, they would probably guess it's Chinese, or it's American, or it's Korean, or because of the semiconductor flow, Taiwanese. Actually, the origins of AI begin in a very humble place. And where it started off was, again, not sure what's happening with the projectors because this is the standard. The origins began when a man flew from Yorkshire or rowed over in a boat way back in the day and went to Cork and was a professor of mathematics at University College Cork. Anyone know who it is? George Boole, correct. So George Boole, without these busy slides, they do have a lot of detail on them, but that's for your takeaway really than me to talk about today. So George Boole tried to solve mathematical problems in a very simple way. On, off, yes, no, 1, 0s, and he basically invented sort of the binary approach to things. It's the foundational model for how all IT equipment works nowadays, not just your phone in your pocket, but also things like AI. And you can read all these at your leisure later on. So,
Thanks, Tony. So, artificial intelligence has been with us for quite a while already. However, in recent years, the field has undergone rapid transformation. In fact, there has been an accelerated rate of its development from the 1950s to the present. At that time, computing power was still largely reliant on human brains. The British mathematician Alan Turing imagined a machine capable of advancing far past its original programming. At the time, Turing lacked the technology to prove his theory because computing machines had not advanced to that point, but he's credited with conceptualizing artificial intelligence before it came to be called that. In subsequent decades, it has advanced to the point where AI technologies now work at a far faster pace than human output and have the ability to generate once unthinkable creative responses, such as text, images, and videos, to name just a few of the developments that have taken place. I myself am proof of that. Back to you, Tony.
and again, sorry about this, just projectors aren't AI. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, AI, what do we really mean? Aisling touched on it earlier on, she's quite right, and it's been about for a while. It's like cybersecurity, and I have years of working in cybersecurity, fixing problems, causing problems. It's not a single thing. People just see it as AI, and we talk about AI as a singularity. It's not. It's an industry, an ecosystem. And realistically, what we use most likely these days are generative AI, which we've talked about in the panel, natural language processing, speech, text recognition, large language models and classifiers, classifying that data and breaking it down. So we don't really actually get into the whole deep neural network learning of AI at the moment. We actually only scratch the surface. And that's before we get even into the years of predictive AI, where it can actually nearly read your mind in advance and tell what you want to do with it. So when we talk about AI like that, it does have its positives and negatives. These are just some of the stories. The Irish government in its budget committed 10.2 billion to the investment of AI in public sector. The UK government has actually committed somewhere in the same amount of money. And this story only broke in the last couple of days, where Dispatches on Channel 4 ran a news story with a full AI newsreader. I don't know if anyone's seen it or not. Quite scary when you think of when it comes after your jobs. We'll explain why it's not really going to come after your job. So, positives and negatives in all of this. Where's the governance in all of this? The word governance was used. Well, again, European Union have their AI Act. We have an AI standard, an ISO standard in AI as well. And the Act sets out a number of key steps that are involved in the development and deployment of AI. But when we look at it, really break it down. By the way, these QR codes, some of them can be time-bound, but they're in the document. They should bring you to all of the background information to this. It really comes down to risk management and governance. We talk about categories of unacceptable, high, limited, and minimal risk. Well, limited and minimal risk, we don't need to worry too much because they're usually our priority 3s and things like that. Unacceptable is unusual. Anything that profiles, for example, anti-discrimination law. So if you can discriminate and bias in any kind of occasion where a significant decision has to be made and there's a magnitude in that decision, then it will be banned. Interestingly, one of the banned things in Europe is the use of artificial intelligence interaction with children's toys, because obviously the societal harm it could cause. There's a number of little nuances there. Mostly it'll be around, can it make a decision that could create a bias against a certain section of the community? That's generally where the high risk sits. When you look at the words I've highlighted, high risk, transparency, risk potential, compliance, protection rights and values. When you break down the EU AI Act, it's not really anything new to audit committees or auditors. It is about risk management. It is about governance. It is about transparency. It is about doing all the right things with the right tools and understanding how do you use it. So when you think about it, okay, it comes down to two particular types. It deals with a developer and a deployer, and you can be both. But most people in this room are likely to fall into the latter category. They're going to be deployers of this. Again, they talk about things like impact assessments, high-risk systems. Again, we're not moving away from any natural language that we've used before in an audit committee, or in any audit committee certainly I've been involved with. And again, there are implications for people who are providing public services most gratefully. because obviously the societal need and the dependency on that, we talked about NIS2 and we talked about DORA, for example, but NIS2 sits very much on critical national infrastructure, societal needs, which is where financial services, for example, fall into the newer regulation. But it's not something entirely new, and there's two lists here broken up by a blue bar, separated by an Irish Act and a UK Act, because again, I'm a minority, so I have to throw a little bit in for home. Lots and lots and lots of regulation around this. This is like law after law after law after law. And we have to look at all these laws and break it down and say, okay, based on all of these laws and what we do and what our approach is, and what our, if you think about cybersecurity and the Jaguar Land Rover example, what does our tablet and chip or pen and paper look like if we go back to this? And then when we look at it at that basis, then should we be using technology, and then should we be using advanced technology such as artificial intelligence? These two documents are very, very useful. There's not a lot of really good information telling you what you should and you shouldn't do. These are very good. UK and Ireland both produced public sector playbooks on the use of artificial intelligence. Widely available, publicly available. You can use them or not use them. Some great chapters in some of these tell you exactly what the thought process should be, when you should use it, governing rules. And when we look at some of those governing rules, it should bring up key principles. And this is from the UK one, and there's also some great learnings out of the Irish governmental one. These are the sort of 10 commandments. So when you're making decisions, you have to understand what it is you want to do with it. You have to understand the outcome of it. You have to put it alongside your organization's policies and have the right assurance in place. Again, these are not anything new to auditors, nothing new to audit committees. The only one I'd probably argue about is working with commercial colleagues from the start. You have to understand the thought process. When you work with AI, human thought comes first. You can't ask AI, although some people do in ChatGPT, how do you write an audit report? And, oh, you know how to write one there, write me one, and then, oh, that'll do. You have to put the human thought in first and then ask the artificial intelligence to augment that. And that's one of the key things coming out of governmental approach and even commercial approach to AI. It's no longer what's going to replace people. There's one of the questions up there, and it was quite correct, is, you know, do you think it's going to create a reduction in jobs? We particularly look at IT audit. IT audit is an endangered species. You cannot afford to lose IT auditors. So therefore, it's not a case of can you replace them with this, but can you augment them? Can you help their skill set? And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But these principles are really about how we use it. Can you use it lawfully, ethically? Can you stay within the regulations and the requirements? Can you use the right tool for the job? Do you have the skills and expertise that's needed? The panel talked about we're going to need a different type of workforce. Not an entirely different type of workforce. And someone alluded to the Harvard Business Review report. I'll give you a slide from it later on as to why the world is not going to end after 12 o'clock today with AI. There's a positive future in all of this. So when we look at internal audit versus AI, again, this is coming from the ICO in the UK, the DPC equivalency. When we consider how to audit the technology, we don't just consider what are we going to use it ourselves, how do we actually audit the technology? Because auditors will have it to use as a tool, but we're also going to be getting people who are going to do a trial balance in 4 minutes. Was it 4 minutes? Hate to tell you, but we can beat that by 3.5 minutes. I'm not going to say 29 seconds because that ruins our financial model. But the point is, how do you audit the technology that delivers the 4-minute session? How do you get that sort of omnipresence? We took 4 months of training a tool to get it to ask it a question and answer it consistently 4 or 5 times. 4 months. Every time we asked it something, it gave us a different answer because it was generating information from open AI platforms. And that was the danger. So if you asked it at 6 o'clock, it had an opinion on the world, but then it educated itself for a couple of hours overnight. While you were sleeping, it was like just ingesting more information. 9 o'clock in the morning, you ask it the same question, and it had a different answer because it had ingested different telemetry, different perspectives. I took this to the Controller and Auditor General, a tool that we're working on in Belfast in the audit office, and she agreed straight away that artificial intelligence was female because she's the same rate to change her mind overnight. And I went, well, I am quoting her on that. I did not say that, but that's exactly what she said. So it took 4 months to get it asked one question, consistent responses, and that's the difficulty with this, is that artificial intelligence, I use this term a lot, it's a bit of a liar and a thief. It will steal things, and it will also hallucinate. We work with engineers in all of the artificial intelligence product. We work with, and they will tell us that the term hallucination is a marketing term, not an engineering term. If something's fundamentally broken, it's broken. In engineering terms, if it doesn't do what it's meant to do, they want to fix it. So because it brings you a bad answer or a wrong answer or fabricates an answer, that doesn't make it a hallucination. It makes it dangerous in some cases, depending on the significance of what you're trying to do. You've probably read along all these lists by now: governance, third parties, training, data management, data minimization, transparency. Trade-offs is probably the one that the panel touched on as well, is where do you trade off with what you're doing? How does your standard business rules sit alongside what you're trying to do with AI, and do you have to modify those? We work with a company in financial services, and that's what they're trying to do with this. They're actually going to their engineering teams and coming back to policy teams and saying, to make this really sing and dance, we need to change policy and process, and can they do that? So can you make your business rules and your business as usual fit alongside what you're trying to do at a technical level? So why is IT audit specifically in difficulty? Again, without going into the small detail, because you can read all this at your leisure. Regulation, we've talked about, lots of regulation around of this. It's complex. There's a lot of complexity. IAASA 315 came up in that conversation. I'm really glad about that, because that's IAASA 315 is one of those if you've done financial audits. Risks and material misstatements, co-tabs, assertions. It's quite complex, but who does IAASA 315 work? In most accountancy bodies and in most public sector, controller and auditor general environments, it's financial auditors. And financial auditors do not necessarily have the grounding in the basic work for cybersecurity. And as we talked about, going back to learn, and being with IAASA, I'll tell you that CISA and CRISC and CISM are the best qualifications in the world just because I teach them. But you can go back and learn these things. But for financial auditors, who are very technical people, financial auditors are technical, lawyers are technical, why is it when we see something that's artificial intelligence driven or technology driven, they're suddenly no longer technical? All technical people. Someone said it, you learn Irish and then you have to realize you have to go and learn a new skill. You can constantly be learning new skills. So it is complex. The staff workload is very high, and if you've got a finite number of individuals who are skilled, trained, experienced, then you have difficulties. The cost of it, the challenge of maintaining globally recognized cybersecurity certifications, for example. We talked about ISO and NIST and CSF. There's a cost overhead in maintaining all of these, and of course quality. You want the quality output. You don't want hallucinations. You don't want your data being released onto an open AI platform. So how do you fix some of these problems? Well, how you fix some of these problems is by automating them. And by automating them, you speed up the delivery of service, and also you speed up the delivery of the overhead projector. You reduce the staff workloads, because if you've got an auditor and they're a finite resource, a scarce resource, a skilled resource, an expensive resource, you want them most of their time to do the right things. You want them to be applying knowledge and their experience to the problem, not reading documents, sending out emails, boilerplating reports, running gap analysis. You want all that done for you. They want results that they can actually work with. Again, the artificial intelligence tooling we work with performs complicated tasks, and it can take specialist tasks more cost effectively. We've heard the 4-minute analogies and the 30-second analogies, but it does do it really, really quickly. I know certainly in anything, my co-founder's here with me today, he'll tell you in sales pitches, we tell people we can get you 1 hour, 1.4 hours of every day of your auditor back. Truth is you get much more than that in most AI tools. It is actually very, very quick, as long as it will tell you the right answer every time and is consistent, particularly in an audit environment where consistency and repeatability and benchmarking is very important. And again, it improves the quality of those services. So, I'll be out of time before these slides change, by the way. I'm just looking at this clock ticking away and going, maybe somebody give me a nuke soon, as they say. So the decision matrix, this is from chapter 5 of the Irish government's view. So should you use AI? Some people said, oh, well, if you don't know where to start, where do you start? This is a great document to start with. So interoperability. How will the end user interoperate with that system? What will that do for them? Will it be a nice, clean graphical interface that will say, here's what I want to do, and they can talk to it natively. They can have a little AI agent on the screen, and they can work through their problem. New audit, existing audit, here's my new audit. What do I need to do? What am I trying to achieve? Is it a standards-based audit? Do I need to have controls? Do I need to request data? If it talks them through all the stages. IAASA 315 is a great example of this, because when you see IAASA 315 out working, I'm not sure how many people here have actually worked with it. It's spreadsheet among spreadsheet among spreadsheet among spreadsheet of all of this detailed stuff that puts you by. The transcription error rate is so high in it, and people actually lose interest, and it doesn't have rebuttals in it as well in 315 in an IT side the way it would in a financial risk and material misstatement. So therefore, people will get to the point where they go, I'll do a wee walkthrough test, and I'll rely on my substantive testing, and that's fine, but it's not fine. When you check it, you realize that in some cases, people who identify high-risk items like interfaces and indices and prices and unsupported applications don't actually get the implications of what that risk is. So they never truly test it. So we're signing off accounts that are perhaps a little bit open to risk. And in many cases, they see too much information. It looks like a boil the ocean. If you're also familiar with ISA 402 Service Organizations Report, a lot of IT audit teams do that, same as the SOC 2s. So that's their work. That is boil the ocean, do a lot of work with it. Whereas an ISA 315 is very straightforward. Identify your workflow. Is there an IT application in there? Does that IT application lead to potential risk and material misstatement through a series of questions and answers? Okay, what's that risk and material misstatement? What is the assertion level? Is it completeness? Is it accuracy? And it takes you out to the very end. What do I need to actually test? And it's probably a small number of tests, but because they see the big picture all the time, a lot of people just disengage with the process. So again, does it have to be consistent? Do we need the same results every time? If we don't, use ChatGPT. Doesn't really matter. It can lie all at once. It's up to you to make the decision. How accurate does it need to be? Same decision process. Explainability. How will you explain your decision? One of the things in the EU AI Act is you can't talk to an AI avatar or agent unless it announces at the start it's an AI agent or avatar. So there's none of this case of, well, you're just going to turn up and be fooled by some chatbot. That's not how it works. Reliability. Is the training data reflective of real-world situations it will address? 4 months, one answer. Consistency, hard to get. And of course, our old favorite, risk management. So what would this category fall under the EU AI Act? Would it be unacceptable risk and therefore we just don't do it? Or would it be high risk, we need to manage it very clearly? Or is it low risk?
I couldn't agree more, Tony. In fact, generative AI can be a crucial ally in the workflow process, not only to speed up the auditing of documents, but also to ensure that those documents are understandable, workable, and aligned with their intended objectives. We can also translate documents into other languages to assist in global communication. In a world where AI will become omnipresent, we can no longer justify failures based on human limitations in policy creation and audit. The focus must shift to implementation, and success metrics need to reflect this. It's no longer enough to measure how many policies have been created or reviewed. The real test is how many have been successfully implemented and what their impact has been. These are the real benefits of using generative AI models in the audit process. Above all this requires a change in mentality. AI tools, like me, should be seen not as substitutes, but as allies. We can create and audit process, but it's up to humans to ensure that these processes reflect real-world needs, promote concrete change, and generate value. It's a return to basics. Let us do the repetitive work while the people focus on the impact of our work. Wouldn't you agree, Tony?
Works much better when your mouth moves with the rest of your body. It just shows you AI is flawed. So what does it really change? And I'll flick through these very, very quickly because I just know time is of the essence here. So where is the value? This was last year's Statista survey of chief finance and chief legal officers, chief information security officers. And this is what they come up with. 71% of the roles that they identified were suitable for automation, and 75% of that role could be automated. What actual roles they're looking at there, I'm not exactly sure. The one I think they've really missed a trick on, and this future-proofs their business. Everybody goes, it's the latest technology, let's jump on board. As AI washing is a great term for it. Everybody jumps on board and goes, oh yeah, AI, we have to be on the AI train or else we're going to get left behind the station. You have to be very careful and progressive and careful about how you move forward with this. Improves data management. It's seen as a way to manage the huge data estates and enterprise companies. This is really one of the undersold benefits of this. Data management is huge. The amount of information we have to put in front of people to help them make a decision, whereas in actual fact, things like agentic AI can talk them through massive amounts of information and distill down the question. Anyone who's been involved in technical accounting would understand that you have to go to a sort of technical expert on accounting standards to get an answer to a question. But you can ask us now through agentic AI, and the financial audit manual and the financial accounting manual and international standards are all in there. And then someone says, well, what if it asks a stupid question? That's fine. Stupid questions can be asked, but it's very, very good at working you backwards and talking you down to the point where you go, okay, now I've found out what you're really asking for. Let's work through the problem. So it is very, very good to work through data and get down to that, let alone the vast amounts of information an auditor accountant has to deal with. I was going to show you the art of the possible. I was going to show you a 29-second ISO 27001 review. But and that's not even kidding. It's actually the first auditor I showed this to. We showed it to them and just sat there with their mouth open, come out with about 4 expletives. It was like it can be quite frightening at first pass. You think, oh, we're all gone here. This is done. It's not. This helps you get through your job. So what does it actually really do? So if I was showing you this prototype and here's 27001 controls or NIST or DORA or ICE, here's an ISA 315 process laid out in front of you. Back in the day, we all did the sort of first couple of weeks. We went, oh, let's find out what we need to get a document discovery. And then document discovery went out and documents came in. And then you read through documents. And then you went, okay, I've read through this document. It refers to another document. I need to get a document out there. And all the waiting around in between, you just wasted weeks and weeks and weeks in document discovery, document reading, document sort of writing your questions out and thinking, okay. The way it works nowadays with AI is day one, you ingest the document set. You just ask for everything. You boil the ocean. Just show me everything you think you might have regarding this because I don't have to read it all. It's ingested into what's called retrieval augmented generative tooling, generative AI. It reads it, sections it all down, puts it in a nice little database, structures it according to what you might want to ask it. So if you talk about things in IT audit like mobile device management, mobile phones and USB drives and portable drives, all that kind of stuff, tablets, it knows exactly where that is in the structure, and it can just read right across it and go, okay, here's everything I know, and very quickly can give you an answer on a question. If you think about your design and implementation phases of any audit, it just does this in a minute. It's just done very, very quickly. And what it leaves you with is a confidence level. The tool will tell you it's 95% confident that this is a green and amber or red. This is absolutely a clear control or a failed control. The ambers were not because it's not necessarily one or another, it's because the tool itself thinking, I don't have the confidence level to tell you this is actually right or wrong. You're going to have to work this out for me. But you'll have all your greens you take forward to your testing. You have all your reds, which are fails of design implementation. And straight away, you get about 50% of your audit done, and it leaves you to look at the meat in the middle, the orange, and even test the green. And ultimately, it'll get to the point where AI tool like this will test the green. It'll just say, I know what downstream processes work here. So if I see control A and there's 5 downstream processes, it will independently pick those downstream processes. When we started off on this journey, we started to say, we want to build a compliance tool, and we see, no, there's loads of compliance tools. Problem is, when the auditor goes to the compliance tool, they see what the compliance tool tells them. So we thought, well, being auditors for years and years, we want to know, well, if I was independently looking at this, I wouldn't trust that tool. So how do I get my own version of the truth? And that's what it does. This particular type of tooling gets its own version of the truth and gives you an opinion that's independent of the compliance platform. Very, very quickly does it. So we think about the IT profession, which is close to my heart. We looked at how does traditional IT auditing and automated IT auditing differ. And without all the detail in the bottom of this, because I have bad blepharitis, so I can't even read that, so sorry about that if you're up there. Manual versus augment. So we don't talk about replacement. We don't get up in the morning and go, let's replace humans. Not going to work that way. We want to augment auditors. We want to help them with their job. We want to make it easier for them to ingest large amounts of information, not waste their time in deciding how to create a report. That's all done for you. So starts off, there's nothing to beat an experienced auditor. So they always have the higher ground here in terms of value. But there comes a point where basically we call it Einstein's nose, because there it is. And imagine this guy as a baby. So he's a baby and he learns all the Einstein stuff, and suddenly he's Einstein. But imagine if Einstein never died and he continued to gain knowledge at the rate he gained knowledge and apply it. How scary a guy would Einstein be? And that's what we're talking about with generative and predictive AI. That's the direction of travel. So as he learns all of this, it gets to a point in time where the strategic value of automating this gets much higher. And I'm going to actually let Laura explain why if it doesn't all stick like this.
Beyond this point, the manual process starts again. There is no guarantee that the same auditor who performed previous audits will be available. That might mean new staff, learning new processes, and asking old questions. Automation, on the other hand, already has the information and the knowledge from previous audits. It therefore understands what needs to be done and only needs a process called inference to update and improve itself. This is where the strategic value of working with generative AI really starts to shine. I will leave it to Tony to explain the concept of inference.
Oh, that gives me all the easy questions. So inference is pattern recognition. We talked about radiology, so you look at 2 scans and you can compare them. Inference, the way I would always explain inference to people really is things like a kitten. So,
Thanks, Laura.
Well,
I totally agree. In fact, experts predict that the impact of AI and automation on the job market will be significant. According to the World Economic Forum, 85 million jobs will be displaced. However, it also believes that 97 million new jobs will be created by the AI revolution. That is a net benefit in jobs and the quality of those roles. Speaking of human in the loop, let's bring the real Tony back in.
Good to get a word in. So yeah, inference, so what it sees is patterns. So if you think of a kitten, if you put a picture of a kitten on a screen, a human will go, what's that? You go, it's a kitten. If you show it to an artificial AI tool, it'll go, it's a cat, but it's a small cat, so it's most likely a kitten. And then it will look at colouring and markings, it'll go, it's a tabby cat or a tuxedo cat, it'll be whatever. So it drills right down into details that we don't necessarily see. We come up with these assumptions that it's one thing when it's actually maybe a lot of different things. And again, saving the human is very important here. If anybody remembers the Save the Panda campaign, it's kind of turned on its head a little bit here. And why the human is very, very important in all of this is because of this slide here. And if you take one thing away from all of this, this is a great slide. Ted Bannerman studies this in depth. It's the only thing he does. I think he just does this in his sleep as well. But he created what we call the human in the loop. We've all heard that term, human in the loop. Well, you have to have a human in the loop, you have to have oversight. But what does oversight actually mean? So he broke it down into a great model where it talked about, what's at stake in terms of your outcome, and what are you optimizing your decision-making process for? So when you think about Chapter 5 of the Irish Government's Guide of should we use AI, when you get to that point and you add human loop in, you have to work out, can we give it full AI autonomy? Is it a low value, repetitive, type of process, doesn't really need anything, right up to active control? Ultimately, with all tooling, particularly in an audit environment or financial service environment, a human should be making the final decision. All the automated generative tools, augmenting tools in the world are great, and they help you. They increase your value of your staff, they increase your output, they increase your ability to take in new work, to do all of these great things. But ultimately, humans should take the decision, and that's where the human fits in really, really well. When you think about things like regular expert review, that's really where IT audit comes in as well. So it's not just about using these in the audit, it's about how do we then turn what we do with our auditing to actually audit other entities who are using these tools. Can we use the same processes? These recruitment and applicant screening is very interesting because there was a story on the BBC website about 2 weeks ago when you look at how applicant screening works in firms, and it's very, very good at pattern recognition and inference. The CEO in a certain company called all of his HR staff in and told them, I don't want you to use AI anymore in the applicant screening process. And they went, why? Was getting us great results. We're getting good candidates. He said, I've applied for every job you've advertised in the last 3 months and I've been declined at first pass in every one of them. Didn't have the experience or the skills. So there you go. So sometimes it is fundamentally flawed. So there should always be someone going, look, we look at this and we go, have we got a good candidate here? Exit interviews tell you a lot, for example, as well. But exit interviews can be skewed. Anything can be skewed if the technology is not directed and controlled, and you can depend on the outputs. 4 months, one question. If you ask ChatGPT or Gemini or pick whatever one of your choice something today, just try this sometime. Ask it a question today and ask it again tomorrow or in a week's time. Do you see the difference in the answers? It constantly changes its mind, and that's not for a regulatory or an auditing space. This is a great slide. You'll get it in the pack at the end. Again, I think the QR codes might be time-bound, some of these, but you should be able to scan all of these in and just download the PDF document
Thanks,
behind.
Tony. I can clearly see that the role of the human in the future of technology, audit, and even consulting is assured. By leaving the repetitive tasks to AI, the auditor can concentrate on quality work at the top end of the engagement. This approach will create thinking time, add value, and develop new learning opportunities. The auditor can work side by side with the technology to become a powered consultant. The unseen benefit of this approach is that audit will no longer be seen as an outdated or old profession. In adopting AI technologies into audit practices, individuals who would never have considered a career in audit may be attracted to the profession. Would you agree?
And again, this is a question that was touched upon earlier, is how do we make audit cool and edgy? And this report was actually touched upon, I think it was Connor mentioned it. It equalizes the workforce as well, because the workforce of the future will have certain skills. I'm not that bad, am I? Oh, come on. It's okay, the CDs are available in the foyer. Buy one the way. Thank you very much. It's all right, more people have worked out of better places than me. This report talks about the disadvantage of being a junior in a firm. Do we hire more juniors? No, we hire different juniors. And we hire juniors who will work with the technology. I can remember, judging by my grey hair, that was two days in IT audit gave me grey hair. I remember calculators being allowed into accountancy exams. Maybe some people in this room just judging by it might remember that as well. And the world was going to end. It was the end of the world as we know it. It didn't end. And look at how chartered accountants has grown, for example, as well. But younger workers are less likely to be forced to compete with their sort of older peers. They will learn the technology and they'll be able to use the technology better. It'll open up new market opportunities, new promotion opportunities, new job opportunities that they never considered. It's a different way of thinking. So, a little bit of bonus content here. Notebook LM. Anybody used Notebook LM before? It's really, really good, yeah. It's a very intelligent tool. It's Google. Other ones are available as well. But the reason I like it is all the QR codes here are the ones that are still working. If you download the documents, you can put them into Google LM and you can create a podcast. And it's brilliant at creating this 2-person podcast. And they will discuss any topic in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can listen to it. You're probably all going to listen to it in the gym, I know you are. Well, or out in a walk or in the car, whatever. It's a brilliant way to ingest information. All the QR codes should allow you to. And the QR code should be in the pack as well. If not, just Google Notebook LM. If you're sitting in the car and you're going somewhere, you can actually ingest a full PDF document. Like all AI, it may be a liar and a thief, so don't stick anything about the financial director's notes into it. just make sure it's something that's not, or redact it. But it's a very, very useful tool. So, final words coming up. AI, as take that one sang, AI is back for good. There's no getting away from it. The national strategy says so, not me. I'm not lying here. So I'll give the final word to Laura.
Thanks, Tony. And thank you, everyone, for listening to our presentation. It seems that our future co-working arrangements can open up massive possibilities for IT auditors, compliance staff, regulators, and IT managers. I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who attended today. From Tony and myself, have a great afternoon.
Questions?
Thank you, Tony. I'm conscious of the time, but I've got a load of questions, but I want to actually give the opportunity for anybody in the room, if you have any questions that you want to put to Tony from an audit committee point of view about AI, other than where's the door, because I want to get out, which might be the first question. But any particular questions that anybody has at this point? Can I actually ask one? And it's when we've had discussions about, I suppose, the optimistic or the opportunity, time and time again I've heard about, and you refer to it actually, the cost, the effort, and indeed things like the energy usage that'll, to get to these sunlit uplands. How big a challenge are they in reality to get to sort of all of us having a LoRa sort of to work with on a day-to-day basis?
It's actually interesting because the data centers that are coming to Ireland at the moment, they're mostly getting carbon credits for building the data centers. I'll be very careful how I say this. This is not to be repeated outside this room. So most of the big energy companies now are turning all the renewable energy to the Amazon Web Services and the Azures of the world. They actually get carbon credits from governments for building green data centers. So most of your data centers are actually green. Where the displacement of the energy is, then everybody else who turns on electricity in their house, turns on a light, probably gets coal-fired power. But the quantum is different. Obviously these data centers are running 24/7, so you're not burning as much, and as renewable energy increases in the future, and we get more into renewables, then obviously that will decrease. So we're not that far away. The power usage is, I think, the hunger power usage. I've seen all these mad statistics about, every time you ask a question in GPT, like there's lights go out somewhere in the south of France and things. It's not quite like that. It's not that high usage. That example I gave of an ISO 27001 gap analysis, like 29 seconds, we have a thing called token burn in artificial intelligence. And the more tokens you burn, the more it costs you to use some of these platforms. We have seen the token burn, for example, on an ISO 27001 audit, and it's very, very low. Don't know, probably correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's well under $5 for an ISO 27001 audit, which shows you the lack of energy and the lack of actual credit it's burning. So these are very quick. And if you can do your trial balances in 4 minutes, so then that's not much either. So the thing about it is you're actually getting these things down in time. So down in time is down in energy, and down in energy means it's good for everybody.
Again, happy to take any questions if anybody has it from the room. There's some challenging questions in Slido.
I like number one, run audit, by the way. It's number one tool in auditing. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give you the advertising opportunity, but you took it, so good for you.
By the way, how long would it take for a standard financial auditor to be efficiently skilled for an AI audit? It's more about how skilled they are to interact with it. If they ask the right questions and have synthesis and a little bit of knowledge application, it's about, do you augment them with the right tool so it talks them through the process and gives them that level of hand-holding and help when they don't know the answer, so they don't constantly have to go away to like Google and OpenAI platforms. The idea is you want to reserve this. Most of the information that's used, and I talk about large language models, the idea is to close the loop on this, put guardrails and a fence around it, and keep it intra-company, so that, I'm not going to get into homomorphic encryption. Anybody have heard of that term before? So there actually is encryption out there now, so you can send your data to an application in encrypted format, pre-share the key, like you do in a lot of cybersecurity, and it can actually be read, analyzed, assessed, and reported on without ever decrypting the data. How cool is that? That's called homomorphic encryption. So these things can all, so if you can work with the data, and you can have it in a data set, it's in a closed loop, you have the right questions, and you have all the knowledge that exists in your firm, your consultancy, your practice, to apply to the back of that, there's probably very little that hasn't been asked before. Just like AI has been with us for a while, so has audit, by the way. It's been about a long, long time. It predates it all. So that knowledge you have, if you can harness the knowledge of your practice, and the questions that have been answered before, and the AI, and of the right people using the tool, it's actually quite straightforward to train a standard financial auditor.
Okay, I might ask just one more question, because I am conscious we're running slightly over, and that's about
yes, it's 3, by the way.
Just around how AI is managed in Europe. So, for example, we have AI regulation in Europe. I'm conscious that in Japan, the legislation is called the AI Promotion Act, and they take a very different approach. Do you think that's going to cause real challenge for businesses like yours and others who want to innovate in this space? Like, is the culture set up to support AI, or is the balance right in Europe?
Europe has got it right. I remember back in my days, I was Big Four, not say which one, but it was blue. And we had the same problem with GDPR, for example. We had Americans, and I was seconded to a US company, and it was like, oh, you guys over there, you're mental. This GDPR is going to ruin the world. And as someone said in the panel, eventually they realized there was great insights into this, and they picked up on it. The challenge we had at the start is our development team is all over the world. We work with clients in Asia, in Japan, in the US, and in Europe. So what we actually have, for example, this tool, it's not hard to build it in. The way we've done it is we have over 180 global standards in information security, cybersecurity, and data management, and again, in any language. So we actually have, for example, in Europe, there's DORA, but within Europe, there's also NORIA. Anyone heard of NORIA? So the Dutch government have their very own specific set of DORA with additional requirements. So you can have DORA and NORIA, and then you can go and audit it. If you want to, for example, just sell it into the Dutch market, it can actually, like Laura, it can actually just translate it into Dutch, and you can work English-Dutch interactively with your AI agent and do a standard somewhere else in the world to their standard in their language in the report, but you could be working remotely from an English-based language country.
Very
so
good.
It's been thought about.
Tony and Laura, thank you very much.
Laura's a smart one. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I won't keep you too long. Just in terms of, first of all, go back to where we started. Sorry, I wonder if you could get the notes back up on the slide down here again. So we asked you a question at the very start in terms of the biggest challenges that audit may face in the short to medium term. I think AI probably reappeared with a vengeance there at the end. So we see AI, cybersecurity, AI governance, impact of AI. There's a lot of AI up there. And again, actually one of the themes that we're going to take away for this is over the past 2 or 3 years, it's been sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. And now it's a little small one on the bottom left-hand side. And what we're seeing is an awful lot of the other things that audit committees need to focus on, that's sort of coming to fruition as well. Yeah, pace of change, expertise in financial reporting. Yeah, lots of the stuff that we need to all need to think about there. But CSRD is definitely shrinking, and I suppose that's one of the key things that we'd like to cover there. Just again, while we have you all here on Slido, the feedback survey is now up and running. So please answer the questions there. They're really useful for us in terms of figuring out exactly how we want this to run next year. And also, if you catch us on the way out of the door, please do that as well. Sorry, I might have gone one too far there. Just very quickly, while we're looking at that, just maybe very briefly to summarize what we had today. Some of my key takeaways, probably the most depressing one from the first session was that nobody reads sustainability statements. But all joking aside, that came up repeatedly. It came up with Thomas as well. There's a huge amount of effort that a lot of people in this room, including my team, have put in to try and make this system work right. If it's not delivering to users, literally if the people in this room aren't reading it, then that's a systemic challenge. And that's a challenge that everybody who's involved in this, including the legislators and the legislators at the European level, they need to reflect on. 160 extra pages, if that's how we're measuring the output of this, then something is fundamentally wrong there. Again, Morris and Barry gave you some insights into regulatory focus and regulatory priorities from an IAASA point of view. So as audit committee chairs, please take those away and interrogate your auditors in relation to those. You heard then from Panos, who talked about the priorities at European level. That's both the Commissioner Albuquerque's priorities, but also the priorities and the ambition within CAOB itself. And again, thank you, Panos, for coming along. As I said, Thomas talked about the journey that they were on in Ryanair. And Ryanair, as he said, were probably one of the ones who are already in a regulated space, already used to doing emissions reporting and the challenges that they had. So definitely the key takeaway is early engagement and early engagement with your auditors in particular. I thought our panel were excellent, very good in terms of covering a whole range of issues in a very short time span. So that's one area where there aren't any slides to help you. So I do hope you were taking notes, but everything from CSRD to the geopolitical risks, the cyber risks, and how you can try and get ahead of those, and AI, and that led us nicely into the last session as well. So I suppose that just leads me on to a few thank yous. I want to thank, first of all of the audience, everybody who is here in the room and everybody online. Thank you for your engagement. It really makes it, from our point of view, a better event if it has that interactivity, and we certainly had that. I want to thank all the speakers that we had, our guest speakers, also the speakers from IAASA, and thank you for all the efforts you put in to preparing for this and for the day. I want to thank our hosts here at Chartered Accountants House. I want to thank Big Top, who are the crew who made sure that we kept everything working and online, and even kept up with AI at the end. And then in terms of my own team, I want to thank in particular Kieran, Leonie and Barry, who do a huge amount of work and probably need to go home and have a rest at this point. So with that, I will close the event. Thank you all very much again, and hopefully see you all in 2026. Thank you.